Okay.
This is the first of a run of podcast kind of interviews, things I want to try and do quite regularly with a bunch of photographers. And today I thought, what better of a first person to have on it than my good friend Kieran, who has a pretty cool story himself. Travelled around the world, gone to a whole different load of places in a year. It's quite an interesting story. Maybe we should do a whole video on that, Kieran. What do you reckon? Just your inspiration of travelling and all the rest of it. That'd be cool. But
Yeah, that'd be really
today,
cool.
sorry, yeah, but today we're going to go and look through our our trip to Germany in 2020. I believe it was the only trip that Kieran and I managed to get in, unfortunately. It started off good, but it was a bit of a disastrous trip. So we're going to talk you through a few things, and most importantly, uh, the famous Neuschwanstein castle and the general experience we had of it, and hopefully we can shed a bit of light in terms of shooting it and just the place in general, because it was a wicked place, wasn't it? It was.
Absolutely, yeah. It was like really. It was one of them sort of places where like you always see it online, and it just sort of has that sense of magic about it. So actually going there and experiencing it for yourself is just like, oh my god, like you're actually living the dream that everyone sort of wishes to, you know, experience. So
Yeah, it is like when you see it for the first time, it's like it literally feels like you're in like a Disney film or something, doesn't it? Like,
yeah,
yeah. Do you remember when we pulled up in that car park thing? Do you know, when we walked around the side of that road and we was in the car park just looking at it for the first time?
oh
Yeah,
yeah,
that was
yeah. We just immediately got our cameras
yeah,
out. Yeah,
yeah,
our cameras at the ready.
yeah. Oh, I honestly, it's
Yeah,
insane. So what I'll do with this is we'll obviously discuss kind of the things that happened, and then I'll stitch in both of our photos as we go along. So obviously, like I just said, we was kind of walking along the road on the way to the castle, didn't really know where it was, and then we just see it up in the mountains in the trees. And it
yeah,
looks kind of in place, doesn't it? When you see it for the first time, it doesn't look out of place, but at the same time, it
yeah.
looks completely lost, kind of thing. Like it's so strange.
Just kind of blends in with nature. I think like it's got that kind of appearance about it where it's quite like a pale looking castle. Like,
Hmm.
I think that's why I'd like to also experience that in the summer.
Oh yeah.
Because of like obviously the colours, it would probably contrast quite nicely. Like seeing
Hmm.
that.
Yeah, yeah. Because when we
But
went, it was obviously in February, start of February, wasn't it?
yeah,
I think it was the
I think it
fifth
was
or something like that, wasn't it? I can't remember.
yeah,
It
yeah,
was
around
quite,
that time.
yeah. So when we went, it was obviously snowing, and it was crazy. I mean, I'm jumping ahead of the story a bit, but the first time we got up to the castle after walking up there, do you remember it started snowing really bad, and it was like it was
Oh
just
yeah, yeah,
crazy
yeah,
conditions. So yeah,
yeah. Yeah, it was pretty cool. But we were fortunate enough to actually see it in both uh, kind of types of weather, weren't we? We
mm,
had a big walk. If you remember, we walked up there, and I remember the first time we actually went up there, there was sort of like a lot of snow coming down. Like when we got
mm,
to the castle gates, there was actually quite a lot of heavy snow. There was quite a few tourists there, but not too many to kind of like ruin the atmosphere. I don't know if that was because of COVID. That might have been too early for COVID, but
it's
it
around
might
that
have.
time, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. And then obviously we had that same experience again, but on a clearer day to be able to see the is it Schwangau or something? The castle, the one that's down
Yes, that's it.
the yellow castle.
Yeah, which
Yeah,
like it's quite interesting as well that you'd mentioned the how it blends in, um, how the Neuschwanstein castle blends in with the surroundings. Whereas I find that the other castle, I can't pronounce the name of it, unfortunately, without completely
yeah,
butchering it. But you know when we was up on that viewing platform and you look down and you got the two lakes either side and that castle
yeah,
slap bang in the middle, and it is weird because like when we went, obviously it's kind of that wintry, cold images anyway. You kind of get that blue kind of tone, and then you've also got this yellow castle that's just sat slap bang in the middle of all this wilderness, and it's so interesting how you get two German castles that are like I don't know how many meters away. I don't know, 800 meters
yeah.
away from each other. Not even that, maybe. And they're just so different in architecture and style and everything. And yeah, it's crazy, wasn't it? It was a crazy,
It
crazy
was.
experience. I can't
It
recommend going
was.
there enough, but um, there was a few downsides though, wasn't there, in terms of the castle itself and the general experience. I don't know about you, but I found it wasn't kind of what it was expected to be. I don't know if you want to elaborate on that in terms of.
Yeah, I mean, I do feel like there is more that we could have seen. I think part of our experience was probably not ruined, but restricted when it came to the viewing platform. Because when we
Mm,
made that first journey up there, we were kind of expecting to go onto this like viewing platform and see like the castle from this very typical spot.
Yeah.
So we had to improvise that, and I think that might have taken a little bit of the magic out of it, like having to sort of like we had a bit of self-doubt to begin with.
Yeah,
But
definitely.
as the trip went on, like I think we did have a good time experiencing it. I think we did have quite a good few days, and especially that view from Tegelberg, you know, the lift that goes up, and we had that view of the castle.
Yeah,
didn't we?
definitely.
That was like
Yeah.
if you don't have a drone, guys, you know, that's a cheat. Take the lift.
Yeah. If you're quick enough, if you're quick on the draw, you get on the right side of the Tegelberg cart. You're you're laughing. Well, that's a bit early for a bee. Yeah,
Apple
so
squash, mate.
that's nice. Yeah, so in general, so we stayed in a place. Kieran organised the whole trip because obviously he'd been doing it for a whole year beforehand. I just kind of tagged along. I don't know if I want to get into the whole side of actually getting to the place, but it was a bit of a mess. But in general, the hotel we had, which was a wicked little B&B, our room, luckily, it was insane, wasn't it? The view we had, if I can stitch in a video, but we could see both the castles from our view. And it was just on that day one when we rocked up after, I don't know, like 8 hours, 10 hours of travelling, or whatever time it was. That was one of the best feeling experiences, wasn't it? Seeing that view was just
absolutely
insane.
Yeah. I think I don't know if you remember that morning. There was a morning where it was actually forecast. I think we checked the night before. It was actually forecast to be a really sunny day the next day. So we were kind of really excited to sort of get out and shoot the castle. But do you remember I was on the balcony? I think there's a video somewhere. We can always attach it in, like where you actually videoed me doing my little bit of
I was gonna say
band training.
Yeah.
So, but the like you can actually see how like beautiful the scenery is then, like how much like sunlight can actually change the whole atmosphere of being there, and that, you know, and seeing that sunrise as well with the castle.
Oh yeah, that is
with
insane.
the sky, the pink sky. Yeah.
No, it's for me the castle. If you went there as a tourist, if you didn't take pictures, obviously it's still incredible. And obviously when you go to these places, you are, in some respect, even though you're there to take pictures, you are a tourist. You have to say in certain situations there are moments where you put the camera down and you just look around and you think, wow, like that place was like a movie scene. I don't know, like everywhere you looked when you got up to the viewing, but like on the way up to the castle, you can see all these different angles of the castle. They look so cool, all from the different sides. You see it in different lights, like Kieran was saying. And then even when you're at the castle, there's crazy views, like looking out over the lake with the there's another angle of the St. Colomon's Church. You remember looking out over the big fields and you can see it with the lake in the background. And then you can also see the other castle from there, and it is insane. And I think for me, the castle itself, actually experiencing it up close and personal, kind of getting within the grounds and the rest of it, was cool from a tourist point of view, but the castle itself was so much better in the surrounding areas. You know, we was just walking around the Alpsea Lake, I think it was, and you're just like, oh, there's a castle. And like, it's just always, you kind of get used to it, even though it's this crazy, crazy Disney-looking thing. Like, you're just like, oh, there it is. The same way you see Big Ben in London or whatever kind of thing. That's the way I look at it.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. It's like that kind of thing, isn't it? Like, if you're in a new location and you're going on walks places, and obviously you're taking in the scenery, if you see that kind of famous landmark, you're always just going to have that kind of reaction of, oh my god, look, there it is again. There it is again. It doesn't matter where it is and where you're taking it from. I think it is just that kind of thing. So I remember there was a part, actually, I think I've got a photo of it somewhere as well. We were going round Alpsea, and when we got halfway round Alpsea, this was on the day where it was really sunny, so we had like it was sort of going towards more sunset, and we had that view of the castle, and the reflections on the lake were actually perfect. You remember that? Yeah,
that was insane.
And, so there was no wind at all. The reflections were perfect, and it was just so like epic to just sit there and take it in, and it was awesome.
Yeah, it is one of those places where it takes you ages to do anything because there's so many photo opportunities. You know, and you're like, when we walk around that lake, it should have took you maybe, I think our host said it was like 40 minutes. It took us like 2.5 hours to get around. It did, honestly though, it's insane. And I think as well, like you said earlier about the different weathers, it completely changes the mood. When that first time we saw it and it was really snowy and it looked so almost, I don't know what the word is, like Transylvanian or whatever, I don't know, like when it was all snowy and cold and dark and atmospheric, it seemed quite evil, but then you see it in the sunny daylight, like we've seen quite a few times, it was just such a different experience. It could have been a different place, even though you're climbing up the same mountain, you're looking at the same castle, we took the same pictures from the same spots and stuff. But yeah, it's crazy. It's a 100% would go again if I knew a bit more information about it beforehand, kind of thing.
Absolutely, yeah. And I mean, like you were saying about the seeing it in different ways. There was actually a moment as well. I think it might have been on our first day. Like when we looked at the castle, there was this kind of layer of fog that was just below the castle. I've actually got a photo of that as well, where this layer of fog was just sitting below the castle. And obviously we saw a lot of fog coming down them hills because we were actually in the fog, weren't we, when we went to St Columb's Church, I think at about 6 o'clock in the morning, and it was about -8 degrees, so it was pretty cold.
That was a good day though.
That was a really good day, yeah. That was wicked. Yeah.
Yeah, that was insane. That fog was just... Yeah, we'll talk about that a bit more in a minute because that could deserve its whole episode, but that morning was one of the sickest experiences, wasn't it? It was just the whole thing was just mad. Because we've been getting up fairly early anyway most of the time, because obviously we was only there for I think 5 days or so, I think, actually in Schwangua. So we were trying to make the most of it. Obviously we was going out kind of having breakfast.
I think it was 4 full days. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So yeah, we was having kind of breakfast in the morning, then just heading out straight away with our gear and making the whole day of it, wasn't it? We did so much. And for those who I don't know, follow on Instagram, whatever, have seen before, you know that we we got up to quite a lot, got up to see and saw loads. But couldn't recommend the place enough. But there are a few things that I would have liked to have known beforehand. Like when we went, the famous bridge that you can go on was closed, wasn't it? So the shot that we was hoping to get, essentially, which isn't necessarily a bad thing because often you take the shots that everyone else has taken before, kind of thing. So if that bridge would have been open, we'd have took the same picture that every single person on Instagram would have taken. So,
and we might not have ventured to the place that we did go to, which kind of in a way helped us because we had to improvise on the spot. Like we knew that we wanted to see the castle from up high. We knew we wanted to get that kind of back perspective that is kind of unique that everyone sees. So we improvised and we actually found like a little path that goes up into a high bit of the woods. It's not necessarily dangerous, but it was on like a cliff face.
Did you hear that, everyone? It's not exactly dangerous, but it is on a cliff face.
Depends on how you look at it.
Oh Christ! I was looking down. That's where I was looking. The eyes were going.
Almost falling down it.
I know. I wanted to touch on that. We probably shouldn't speak too much on this because we might get caught by the German authorities for the amount of barbed wire there was.
Blimey, that's true. Yeah. That's enough of that. We'll leave it on a cliffhanger.
Christ. So like Kieran said, it was for me the castle isn't an easy walk, is it? Let's be honest. To get to the castle,
no,
it's not a 5-minute affair. It is a proper get your hiking boots out, bring supplies if you will. It was like a good,
have your coffee.
Yeah, or the mulled wine or whatever we had that morning. Do you remember the glue wine?
Oh yeah, the was it called Schulf Cidre or something, like the cider, wasn't it?
Yeah, we had that as well. Yeah, So when you walk up there, like I said, it's not a walk in the park. It is a full-on hike, and it did take a good hour or so. Obviously, we stopped on the way. There was a few spots to take pictures of, a few little cool waterfalls, wasn't there? But we kept seeing, obviously, all these horse and carriages that you can pay. I don't know how much they were. I don't think they were too expensive, but...
No, I wouldn't have thought so, no, because there was quite a few of them around, so... I reckon they're probably like a business, and
definitely. But it was all the tourists, that were doing it, and then it was us stupid people that decided to climb up the mountain. But it was all part of the experience, and then once you've done it once, you kind of know that it was that's the kind of thing you're dealing with. But when you get there, obviously there's so many different angles you can see it from, and then eventually you realise when you're there, there's not really much to take pictures of when you're that close, is there? Do you know when we got up there and it was a bit like, oh well, this is a bit disappointing. I don't know if you felt the same way, but I definitely did.
Yeah, when you actually reach the castle grounds, obviously all you're going to expect to see really is the castle grounds. Like when you see the actual photos of the castle itself from that kind of drone perspective or from the ground looking up, like obviously seeing it as a whole, I think is more impressive than actually being up there and seeing it. But then that depends on the person, obviously. Like for us, we're there to kind of experience the photography side of it and all the walks that are around it, try and find like unique things in the surroundings. But obviously if you're into architecture and you like sort of the history of castles and want to sort of learn more about that, then it'd be perfect for you. But yeah, the views from the top on the one time we actually went to the gates, I think was not what we expected, because the visibility was quite poor, I think, with all the snow. So we didn't really experience the full sort of landscape, like the surrounding landscape. So yeah, that was the only thing that kind of, for me, I think, failed to impress.
Yeah, and I
as
think
such.
as well, for me the main thing was you had it was, for me, it was very disappointing. It was like you walk all that way, it's a huge walk, you see the castle from multiple angles on the way up, and you think, oh my god, this is going to be absolutely insane. When you get up there, like, you keep walking, you keep walking, you keep walking. You get there, you walk up this little pathway. I mean, there's a nice little viewing platform. Do you remember there's that little kid who was taking pictures of his family? The kid was like, he was really young, the little Chinese family, or they were a small tourist family, and they was taking these
I think
pictures,
so.
and the kid was taking pictures of it. That's what I remember from that. But it was with the background of the castle on the mountains. Would make a lovely Facebook cover photo, I must admit. But
Yeah.
the when you get in there, you kind of go through these arches, and you can only go in this small courtyard area. It's probably no bigger than a basketball court area, and everything else was chained off. And I was just like, well, this is crazy that we've come all this way. Because I was thinking maybe if you could get inside the castle grounds, you can kind of see different angles of the castle itself from within the grounds.
Yeah.
Once again, like I was saying earlier about the kind of being more inclined to be a tourist in that situation, I thought, well, maybe it'd be quite interesting to see this or maybe learn some information. But all it was tourists standing in the courtyard taking their turn to have their photo taken. And I actually have a picture behind a line of tourists. I'll stitch it in now, but with a woman just standing there in the snow like this. And I was just like, man, if this is
I
the
remember that. Yeah.
experience, this is kind of sad. And then yeah, after that,
Yeah.
it's when we was like, well, we're not going to be defeated by this, are we? So we decided to climb up climb up the treacherous path of doom.
Absolutely, but then I think there were a few people doing it though, so
Yes,
we actually kind of got the idea based on other people kind of taking that route, and we were kind of like, oh, should we just
to just do
follow
it.
them? Like, what else we've got to lose? We've walked all this way up. We don't want to go home empty-handed. So,
No.
because even on all the days we were there, I don't think that platform was open. I don't think it was just the days that it was snowing. I think it was the whole time we were kind of in Bavaria, sort of around Neuschwanstein. I think it was shut. So definitely check before, like a week before you go or a few days before you go. Make sure you check to see if the platform's open. If not, then well, you'll still have a good time. You'll still see lots of things. There's plenty of walks to do as well. Like this, I don't know how many lakes there are in the area, but you can also
God
see
knows.
the castle from the lakes as well, which is good. So
You can, like I was saying earlier, the perspectives you can get of the castles. Obviously, there's two of them. I think there was another one fairly close we didn't go to, but I mean, there's so many everywhere that it's just
a lot of big
insane.
walks.
And yeah, so
Yeah.
even it's one of those places that it just doesn't disappoint. Everywhere you go is a photo, isn't it? It's a photo opportunity. There's just so much there. Like you were saying, the castle with the reflections on the lake. We walked out to Austria, which was a bit of a bit of a trek.
Oh yeah,
Maybe
that was a
one
bit of a
for
trek.
another story, another episode. But
Another episode. Yeah,
along
definitely.
the whole way of that, even once again, similar kind of story. Walking to Austria or across the border or whatever, you think it's going to be crazy when you get there, and it was just a field with a small church in it, or whatever. But the journey itself had so many photo opportunities that it was kind of made up for, which is a similar kind of story to the castle itself, or the Neuschwanstein castle.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it is a weird experience. It is a completely weird experience.
What would you say was your like favourite view from the castle though? Because personally, I think that when we went up the Tegelberg lift, I was actually surprised at how good that view was from there. Like, you can actually take a really good photo from that perspective. Like, there's plenty of photo opportunities when you're going up there. And I actually think that some of my favourite shots were from that day. I think that was our last full day there, wasn't it? I think it was.
Yes, was that the day we did St. Colomon's Church in the morning, then the Tegelberg, and then we walked around the
Tegelberg.
lake? Was that
Yeah,
that
that's
day as
it.
well? Okay, yeah, that was a crazy day. We need to do another whole episode on that because that was just insane.
And that was was its own day. Yeah, there was so much we covered. Yeah,
but that was cool. That angle of it for me, I was so kind of. Well, there was two things that went wrong. One, I was so blown away by the view that I couldn't really get many pictures. Another thing is I had my image stabilization turned off on my lens. So when I was moving, was obviously moving with the lens of the camera, and
Yeah.
all my shots were out of focus. But
Oh, bugger.
not out of focus, but they were just a bit blurry.
Yeah.
And then but it's crazy. It was one of the things that I was glad that I witnessed in person. Just because when you're going up next to it, it's like once again like you feel like you're in a drone, aren't you? You kind of like going up next to it, and every single second, every couple of seconds, the perspective changes, doesn't it? Which obviously is reflected in the pictures of different shots you got.
Like
of that.
with the different trees, like there's different layers because as you're going up, there's lots of like cliff faces, obviously with trees on. And typically, as the higher you go on a mountain, the more snow's going to be there because obviously snow tends to have more at the top of mountains than it does at the bottom. So lots of different color gradients and stuff. It is a really epic experience. So I couldn't recommend it enough. And it's not too expensive to get up there either. There's lots of paths to walk up there, but we'll talk about that again.
Yeah, well,
another day.
Yeah. Oh no, honestly, it's just one of the coolest trips for me. That the Tegelberg day and the whole experience of that was interesting because it was not anything really to do with the castle, which was the reason we went there, but it was the best day, if that makes sense. We didn't do anything to do with the castle in terms of, like, even with the lake reflection shots. My favourite ones aren't with the castle; they're more of just the trees and the mountains. The church in the morning, getting up at sunrise for that was absolutely an incredible move. So glad we did that.
Well, we could actually attach a photo below as well because I've actually got, like you say, one of my favourite photos. I actually put it as a giveaway on my page, like a canvas print, and it's actually facing the opposite way of the castle. So it's on Alpsea Lake, and it's literally a perfect reflection of like the landscape of the mountains. And we can always attach it below, but it was again, like you say, it doesn't always have to be the castle that's the best view. It is just like the location and the surroundings. There is just so much to take in, and like the colours as well. That just makes up for the scenery as well, like all the colours on the trees and stuff.
Because when we was going out, typically the Tegelberg day was so good because we went out at sunrise, so we caught that morning light coming over the mountains. The church was so cool, just in general, kind of backlit by the mountains and the sun kind of creeping over them. And then we went up the Tegelberg a bit later on, and we had the brilliant kind of midday sun, kind of from like 11 till 2ish. I think we were up there quite a long time. The sun was coming right down. It was like beautiful mountain weather. If you've ever been in mountains, it's exactly like that. Not always, but like that's how you want it, isn't it? The clear blue skies and the sun.
Not a cloud in sight.
Yeah, it was, wasn't it? It was just insane. And obviously, it's not so high up in the mountains that there's no trees, because it was obviously a big takeaway from that was the snowy covered trees, which we both got some wicked pictures of.
Absolutely.
And then the final part of the day, obviously walking around the lake, you got the kind of late afternoon sun, so everything's at a low angle, and you get that kind of lovely golden hour feel. And that was definitely reflected in our reflection shots, pardon the pun.
Going on that though, if you remember, there was a few times we almost fell over.
Whereabouts? At the
around the Alpsea Lake, because they're covered under the trees, aren't they? So
So
the amount of snow there.
That's one thing to think about in these places. There's no national trust looking after it, or no councils making sure these things are safe. You know, we're walking around, you're literally walking on icy routes, trying to get these pictures, trying to compose fine art photos. You're bloody ice skating. That day was just so sick, and I'd happily do that again. They're, like I said, my favourite pictures from that whole trip were 100% that day. Even though the castle was cool, we went there for the castle, and the castle still was kind of my, like, if I had to show people pictures from that trip, I would show them pictures of the castle. But personally, that was just an all-in-day pack, like all-in-one package for just incredibleness, if you will.
Absolutely, yeah. And I think like if we're talking about how long to spend in Neuschwanstein, I think because we were there for 4 days, but I don't know if that was enough time or not. I feel like we could have probably had a couple more days there to maybe experience other things around the area. Like, it doesn't have to necessarily always be about the castle. Like, if you're going there for just the castle, maybe then a few days is enough. But if you want to go on like walks and you like the hiking and you want to get a good day to go up Tegelberg and everything, then I'd say definitely spend maybe 5-6 days at least there.
Yeah, I think we definitely crammed in quite a lot, didn't we, for the time?
Yeah.
Which is not a
Because
bad
we spent
thing.
like one day travelling. Like if you think the first day was like travelling,
Yeah.
and then the last day was travelling, we went to Fusen and had a little walk around there with our cases, lugging them around. Again, another story for another day.
Right. Oh God, I'm
yeah.
having bad flashbacks, guys.
Yeah.
But yeah, definitely, like you say, I think if we would have been there another day or had, yeah, even another half day, if we would have arrived in the morning on that, we could have seen the castle. Well, we would
On
have
the
gone up
first
there
day.
again, but yeah, we would have seen it properly on the first day, and then we could have
Yeah.
made more room for, like you say, there's so much to do. There's a massive lake, which, oh my God, my camera's so dark, I have to brighten up. There's a massive lake which sits behind the St. Colomon's Church, and we didn't touch that at all, even though that was like one of the main features. But we just didn't, and it was literally what 10 minutes from our accommodation or whatever. So we literally could have walked around
Yeah.
that, but we didn't go anywhere near it. But yeah, if we go there again, that'll be first on the list for sure.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh yeah,
Definitely.
it was a crazy trip. Right, 27 minutes my camera says. So should we call it here?
Yeah.
We'll
Let's
start
call it
rounding
here.
it up,
Yeah.
and then we can do another one potentially talking about the Tegelberg Day in Hull.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
The Tokyo Day, and then we can go on to things like Munich and
Oh yeah.
maybe talk about the do's and don'ts while in Munich.
Yes.
So.
Yeah, definitely. Cool.
Yeah.
So all in all, I hope you thoroughly enjoyed that and got a bit of an insight into our trip to Germany. If you like this kind of thing, definitely feel free to check out more if we have more at this time. But yeah, like, comment, subscribe. I think that's what they all say on YouTube. So yeah.
Typical, farewell.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, and I'll see you in the next one. Cheers. Right.